Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to today's live. And wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And welcome to those who are going to join us for the live, as well as those who are going to join us later on watching the IGTV recorded. So today's series and today's episode is the sixth episode, which is part of the alternate ways of connecting to nature. And the whole endeavor of the series is to connect with people who are connecting with nature in different ways, and for us to learn from that, and as the millennials say, to expand my eco literacy about how we can connect with nature. And today's episode is a very, very special episode on tree communication, and I'll be joined by Holly. And let me just add Holly this particular discussion. She's a fellow tree communicator for the past 4-5 years, and she's also a podcaster. Hey, hello, Holly. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, just introducing you and just sharing that. And she's also written an amazing book called If Trees Could Talk. If you can get a hands on that, it's amazing. I mean, when I was reading it, I'm like, yes, 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 this is what some trees here told me to. So it was really good to read that book on Kindle. Do in case you're interested in tree communication or you feel like yes, it resonates with you, do pick up that book. I would really highly recommend. So Holly is joining us from UK, and it is morning there, is it?
It's just afternoon. It's 12:30.
Afternoon. Okay, so good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yeah. So it's really nice to have you, Holly, here, and a lot of gratitude to you, because for me, though I do communicate with trees, the podcast I think I heard that you had done once on tree communication. You mentioned about normalizing tree communication and not making it sound like it's some paranormal activity. There is something normal to it, and I think that gave me a lot of courage to really speak about it. So some of the people I know are aware that even sorry, Nature Connections is born because of trees communicating that this needs to be birthed. And I never really spoke much about it, even my family members. So though it's mentioned in the website and things like that, I would still hesitate from sharing it with people, or I would choose who are the people I can share who will understand all of it. But I think after your podcast became much more easy for me to say, hey, there are a lot of us who are communicating with trees, and it's not something that's surreal. It's as normal as it can be. So I thought it'll be a good idea to just share experiences, so that in case people who probably were like us, who felt like we've gone mad or crazy, that trees are talking to us, can probably feel comfortable, just like you made me feel comfortable about it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we did that podcast episode and that helped you. And I know it's helped other people as well to feel more comfortable with this. I mean, I know it's not, it's normal for me, but it's not 100% comfortable for me to always talk about this in certain places because I know there is skepticism. But the more I do it, the easier it gets. So it's like building that muscle of just getting comfortable with it and talking about it. So anyone listening to this, if you feel scared to talk about it, just know that gets easier. And share, and to maybe just talk about it in the places where it feels safe to talk about it first, and then you can expand your audience.
Yeah, I think that's how we all started, right? I mean, we started talking to some, it was like a hush secret, that we would tell someone. And it's something that I think for us also took a few years to really come out and speak about it in public, right? I mean, it is something that kept us in a very vulnerable space for a while. So
I mean, I know I was terrified to write that book. Like I knew that I had to write it, but I was thinking about like turning it into a novel and making it fiction, so I could still get the tree stories out there, but in a safer way. And then I was like, no, I can't lie. This is real. This is for real. I just have to say it how it is, and so be it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you did it because it's been there for me too, and I've been like jotting down the conversations in a book, but I've never really still felt ready to like
Yeah.
put it out there. So who knows, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, and we are welcoming everyone, whoever it is, whether you're a skeptic, whether you
Yeah.
already are a tea communicator, please do share your experience. It's always lovely to hear from others as to
Yes.
how you communicate with trees. And of course, you can ask questions
Yes.
throughout. You can use a chat box. You can also use a question chat box to just ask specific questions. That gets easier for us to know when you asked a question. So
Right.
we'll keep the chat on sharing of experiences for around 30 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A. Hopefully, we have a lot of nice questions, which also makes us become more aware of this whole topic. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe, Holly, you can start off by sharing as to how, maybe just describing your first experience, because, tree communication is not something that is feels natural. It doesn't come it's not like reading a book, it's not
Yeah.
something. So just share maybe how it was for you when you first started communicating with trees. So maybe some people might resonate with that too.
So at first, it wasn't something that happened spontaneously. I mean, I had to go out and seek it and try it. But it came because I used to get these weekly Akashic Records readings from a friend of mine in the States, Vicky Young. And one day, the Akashic Records keeper said, next time you're out on your walk, just go to the trees and put your hands in their bark and talk to them. And I was like, but I don't know how to do that. What are you asking me to do? And then I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And so I was out on this walk in a new place where I'd never walked before. It was a bit further away from where I live. And so I just walked up to a tree and I put my hands in the bark and it said, it's okay. And I thought, what's okay? And so then I went to another tree and it said the same thing. And I thought, I don't know. Yeah, it's okay. Everything's okay. It's good. And then a few minutes later, I got lost. And I was in this part of the woods that I'd never been in before. I got turned around, had no idea where I was, started to get a little panicked. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. I didn't have a map with me, which is a big no-no. And I didn't know what to do. So I thought, I remembered what the tree said. It's okay. And I thought, oh, well, maybe this is it. And I thought, well, if I got that message from the trees, then maybe they can tell me how to get back on track. And so I just went up to this, I remember it was this young birch tree, and I just, put my hands on it and I said, please help me get back on track and get, out of the woods. And it gave me directions. It just said kind of, go over here, turn left here, walk here, turn left here. And it was, quite simple, but I'd kind of gotten so flustered, I just really couldn't see the way. And then this tree just, said, do this, and I got back on track. And so that was kind of the start of my relationship with talking to the trees. It was just practical information and help.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds so amazing, right? I mean, imagine if trees could just keep giving us directions in life,
Yeah.
it would just get so much easier. Yeah.
Trees as life coaches.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Yeah, I think I resonate with what you said. You need to seek it out,
Yeah.
and it's only when someone tells you like, "Hey, go do it." For me also, my spiritual coach was like, "You need to connect with the energies of trees," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" I have no clue. She's like, "I don't know. You need to figure it out." So I would actually go to the park where there are trees, and in the beginning it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't do this alone. So I would actually like tag along a friend, and we were just sitting and, just like you said, just keeping their hands on the bark and just sitting next
Hmm.
to a tree. And I was like, what does this energies of tree mean? What is, that question kept coming on in my head. And then suddenly I heard the tree speak saying that, yeah, you have to talk to us. And I'm like, oh, okay. Is that it? And she's like, yeah. And, I could have that, the sense of, Maya Angelou's energy, of the strength that Maya Angelou has. And I could sense that. And I kind of was like, what is this? And I opened my eyes and I'm asking my friend, like, did you hear that? She's like, hear what, And she, and I'm like, I think I'm gone crazy. I could talk, I could hear the tree talking. And, it took a while to really, for it to sink in. But yeah, I think if we seek it, perhaps that's like one of the first steps probably to,
I think that makes
yeah.
it easier too, because it's like you know what well, you don't know what to expect maybe, but you're seeking it out. So you're aware that this is the thing that you're going to do. Whereas I've had emails from people that it's happened to them spontaneously, where they've just been walking down a trail and a tree's been like, hey, and then it says things to them and they're like, what's going on? And I've actually had people email me and say, I've had this experience and it was terrifying. And so I started Googling, like, is this possible or am I going crazy? And then they found my website, thankfully, which says, no, you're not going crazy. But I think it's really frightening for people when it happens spontaneously. And I don't know whether the trees are trying to wake us up and trying to just, reach out in any way they can. But I think for some people it can be a bit disconcerting.
Yeah. It's like ghosts talking to us, or like some voice around us speaking. So it can be quite scary for some of us. Yeah. But it's natural is what we are trying to say here, that
Exactly.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's okay.
It's not a ghost. It's not anything, but it's just a tree. And so one thing that we spoke about is maybe if we seek for it, it'll come, or sometimes it's spontaneous. Is there any other ways that you know of, or how people can, if they want to start, let's say, communicating with trees, what's been your experience that you would like to share?
I would say the most important thing to do is, if you're going to go out into the woods or into a park, find whatever tree just kind of calls to you or that you feel drawn to or catches your eye, and go with that. And just slow down. That was the one piece of advice the trees kept giving me. So, like, don't just walk up to a tree and be like, hey, how's it going? And expect an instant response. Like, sit down, calm your energy down, sit with the tree for a while, just relax. You don't have to go so far as like meditating next to the tree, but you could if you wanted to. But really just slowing down your system and relaxing, because the communication with trees, it's a very subtle communication. It's not, as you know, it's not a verbal communication like we're having now, which is why when you asked your friend, did you hear that? Your friend didn't hear anything because it was very kind of subtle and telepathic. So you need to be in the right state of mind to receive that. I mean, I think some people are very, very open to that type of communication all the time, but I think for most of us, we need to just kind of chill and relax and open up to that type of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes, and that so resonates again, because today in the morning I was communicating with a tree, and I've recently gotten to know her, like just 4-5 months back, and she's been on my street. So I've been living here for 5 years. It's only been like the past 4-5 months that I've really started connecting with her. And I was asking her, like, is there some message that you think you'd want me to pass on through the Insta Live today? And this is exactly what she said, is that it's okay if you can't communicate the way you are used to. Just sit there, slow down and observe. Just be with us for a few minutes, even if it's like a minute or two, without any other distraction like mobile phones and things. Just observe us. If you do want distraction, just observe our bark, our leaves. And she says the communication part is actually happening at another level already. Even if you're not consciously aware. I didn't really know what she meant by another level, but I'm guessing something to do with like at maybe a subconscious level or some other space, So it's just like, it's okay, you don't really have to get it the way others get it. It's just about just being with us, and slowly, it may happen, it may not, but it's fine, That's what she said,
And it's a skill, so don't expect it to happen the second you start trying. You might need to go out and have a few kind of sessions with the tree before you start receiving messages or feeling that connection. So take your time, don't rush it.
Yeah, it's like, I remember you sharing it. It's like a human being, You can't always have a deep connection with a stranger right from the get-go. You need to kind of, build it up, and maybe sometimes connect. And there are some trees where you can connect faster. There are some trees that take time, and just be patient with the whole thing, right? That's like, it's really interesting, because so last week we were talking about animal communication. So I was kind of trying to distinguish between both, and I realized that animals are like kids, playful kids, and you can like instantly start talking to them and they won't really bother knowing names and things like that. But I think trees have a very like an older feel, like an older person, or
Yeah.
like a grandmother or grandfather kind
Yeah.
of, so you really need to take it easy, get to know them, build a relationship, and and then connect with them. So I found that that's like a huge difference. And yeah, I mean, both are really fun. It's just that this might need some more time to really connect, right? And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a really good observation because most trees that we are going to go out and talk to are probably older than us.
Yeah.
They've been around here longer. I mean, especially
Yeah.
some of the trees, like one of the trees from my book, which is a yew tree that's estimated to be about 1,700 years old. I mean, my lifetime is a fraction of what that tree has lived. So they're really kind of operating in a different wavelength because they've been here for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much wisdom that they have that
Yeah.
it's kind of, yeah. Imagine 1,000-year-old tree. Wow, they must have seen so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions that people do ask is, how does that communication really look and feel
Hmm.
for us? Like how does it work?
Yeah.
Kind of like what's really going on. So if you were to share your experience, what would that be
Yeah.
like?
So I think this different people receive the communication in different forms. So some people will get a feeling, some people will see symbols, kind of images, but I actually do hear a voice in my head, and the voice it's different from my inner voice. They talk differently. They don't talk how I talk, and it really feels like a different being. And I think that's one of the ways that helped me to understand that yes, this is not just something going on in my head. Like it is, I am communicating with something else. Because that's one of the things that I think when people start channeling or tree communication or animal communication, it's you're second guessing yourself. Like, is this just me? Like, am I just making this
Yeah.
up, or is this really happening? And I think that's one of the things that helped me to distinguish their voice from my voice. So for me, it's, I go to a place, I go to a private place. I don't go to parks. I go to, woodlands where I can be alone and not have to worry about people walking down the trail next to me because I can't relax. So I'll go sit with the tree, relax, and then kind of start the conversation. And I will, sometimes I'll speak out loud to the tree, but usually it just kind of all happens at a silent telepathic level rather than me actually speaking out verbally. And that's what I do when I'm looking to have kind of a deep conversation with a tree, like when I was collecting the stories from the book. But sometimes, if I go out for a run and I'm in the woods, I'll just kind of say, hi, hi, like as I'm running down the trail. And that's, I'm not really looking to have a conversation because I'm running down the trail, but I'm looking to connect and just say hi, the same way you would say hi if you pass someone on the street. But yeah, it's really important for me to, if I'm looking to have that deep communication, to be in a quiet place where I won't be disturbed, because otherwise I just can't relax enough to. I'm always like looking over my shoulder. And that was one of the things that was challenging for me, especially with one of the trees in the book, the white road oak in Savernake Forest, because it's right on a convergence of two paths, a crossroads, and a lot of dog walkers pass. So it was like, I know I need to talk to this tree, but how am I going to get this done? So I managed to just find a time when I could be there alone.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be quite, I think our focus shifts to what are they thinking, or
Yeah.
I'll also try to kind of, if I see someone passing by, I'll make myself busy, as
Yeah.
if I'm doing something else with the tree.
Just checking something on my
Like,
phone.
yeah, or I'm just seeing the bark and just taking out the leaves. you know? So yeah, and as you know, India, it's really difficult to find a space where you'll be completely private. So
Yeah.
it does get a bit unnerving when people walk by, and yeah, it is funny. So for yours is mostly auditory, is what I hear you say.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
mostly like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and
I mean,
is
I
it
will
like,
sometimes get like a feeling, which I know isn't mine, but it's mostly auditory.
yeah, and is it like a different voice when it's like
Yeah.
a completely different voice? Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And different trees really have different personalities, and that really comes through in
Yeah.
the voice for me.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, for me it's like the same. For me also it's auditory mostly,
Mm.
and it's like the same voice. So in the beginning, there was always this question of, are they my thoughts, or
Yeah.
is it really the tree talking? And I think one of the ways that I could finally start distinguishing is where the tree would say something that could never be my thoughts.
Yeah.
In the sense, like I could never think in that direction. I
Yeah.
mean, we would talk about something like life and death or evolution and things like that, and it would share something. I'm like, and sometimes I would disagree to
Yeah.
what I hear. I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound right for me, or it doesn't make logical sense, but I'll go with it, kind of thing. So I think that's when I'm like, okay, this is definitely the tree telling me this. It can't be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's really good. That's a really good kind of perspective of how to kind of figure out.
yeah, ask some like really difficult question. Is there life after death? And the responses would be like, oh gosh, it's like totally out of the world. I'm like, really?
But maybe don't start with those questions if you're just
Yeah,
starting with tree communication,
not in
because
the
that
beginning.
might trip you up. Start with something
Yeah,
nice, like a light, keep the conversation light, and then like once you
yeah,
feel comfortable, then you can ask them like, what's the meaning of
yeah.
life?
Exactly.
What
Like,
happens when we die?
yeah. Like whenever we do like in-person nature walks, and like since Nature Connections was born through trees, uh, something to do with trees would always be part of it, especially communicating with trees. So I would always say, like, imagine you're going on a blind date with someone, right? So that's how you would
Yeah.
just get to know. So ask some simple things like,
Yeah.
how old are you, or like what. Just connect with the energy. Sometimes you could get a masculine energy or a feminine energy, or sometimes both, or just get a feel of the person, and then you could have conversations that could make
Yeah.
sense to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes in silence is fine.
Yeah. And I
Silence
think
is
that's why that was such good advice that you received, was to kind of feel into the energy of the tree, because that's kind of like gives you an idea for what the personality is like.
yeah,
Does it feel friendly? Does it feel like doesn't want to talk
yeah,
now? Or like, what does it feel like? Does it feel playful? Does it feel joyful? Like,
yeah.
mm,
Yeah, and people come up with such different answers. With the trees that they connected, they would connect with a childlike energy sometimes with a tree, or it could be like a very wise old person.
yeah,
Sometimes they even connect with people who've been there in their life and who passed on. So they feel the energies of that person, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I really felt this person being here." It could be my grandmother or grandfather, and giving me some advice which they would have given me, right now, and
wow,
things like that. So, yeah, I think just connecting with, like you said, the personality of the
yeah,
tree, and it just customizes according to what we would like to hear at that moment. I feel, to just share with that, and yeah, I think it's an amazing journey to connect with trees at a level that we're not very comfortable with most of the time. But
yeah.
yeah, beyond knowing the names and medicinal properties of trees and things like that, I think it really is helpful. Yeah. And if you were to give any piece of advice to anyone about tree communication, what would that be, if at all?
Slow down and relax and be patient and just give it the time that it needs. If it doesn't, if you think you don't get anything the first time, like just really tune in to the subtle energies. I mean, if you're not hearing a voice, okay, then how do you feel? What do you see? Are you getting any symbols? What do you smell? Like, because another a way that you might get messages is through a scent or a taste. Like, you might get a sensation that's not in your physical reality. Like, you might taste something and you're not eating anything, or you might smell something that's not there. So pay attention to all of your senses and really tune into all of your senses and see if you get a message through any of your senses. So whether it's, auditory, visual, or all of them. So you might get a message in a different way than you expected.
Yeah, makes sense. And it's not necessary that they have to be touching the tree, or
Yeah.
they
No, no,
have
no.
to. In fact, sometimes, thanks to the pandemic, I've been able to communicate with trees
Yeah.
and without being able to go
Yeah.
there. Once
Yeah.
you have a connection with the tree,
Yeah.
just imagining them, and that also works. And
It does. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that that's a great piece of advice of connecting with the senses. Sorry.
yes, yeah, no, it's fine. And that's one of the things that I did, as you said, connecting long distance. So once I connected with all those trees in the book, as I was actually writing the book, if I had any questions for them or like, can you clarify this? Like, I would just kind of tune in long distance. I'd be like, I'm writing the book now. I'm sharing your story. Can you please clarify? And so I got some updates for the book from the trees. So yeah, just give it a try. Give it a try. And
Yeah.
find your way of doing it because it's going to be different for everyone. So just do what works for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there are no right or wrong ways of
No,
doing it, right? It's
yeah.
just the way, like you said, just paying attention to, like for me also, there's a tree right in front of my house and from my balcony. I, the first things I've always just noticed is how the moment I would see it, the leaves would start moving, like as if there's a
Mm,
breeze. And I think the sense of observation from what
yeah.
you just said, so just observing that it's doing that. And I would see like, notice the trees around it, it's not moving as much, or they're still. And so I would say like, oh, this tree is dancing whenever I come by, so that was my interpretation. But that's how we started. And the
Mm,
communication part, it started way later. It was just me observing how the
yeah.
tree reacts or what's happening. And like you said, just the senses, right? It just connecting to either sight, smell, or touch, or
Yeah.
whatever. Right? It
Yeah.
works. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there are no rules. Just do what works for you and
Yeah.
keep doing it.
Yeah.
And just be respectful. I think that's the only thing that I think trees expect is just a
Yeah.
respect. You can bring it a gift. You can dribble a little bit of water from a bottle on it if you want, or just say thank you, or you can sing it a song, or you can dance it a dance, or whatever. But
Yeah.
just be respectful and be grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the first things I did in the earlier stages is to ask permission, like, can I touch you? And there were some trees which actually said no.
Yeah,
And I'll be like, oh, okay. It would be like a little weird. So I would be respectful and not touch the
yeah,
bark, and I would just stand there and look at it and just say thank you
mm,
and bye. Yeah. So
yeah.
some, just like people, right? Not everyone is open to wanting to talk or be
Exactly,
touched, or
exactly.
yeah, so just being respectful. Yeah, that sounds good. And yeah, one last question I had, and before I ask that, maybe if anyone else has a question to ask,
Hmm.
feel free to put that on to the chat. We'll be starting the Q&A in a couple of minutes. So what's been like your, let's say, most memorable conversation with a tree that really always stays in your heart?
Well, I would say it was with the yew tree that gave me the idea for the book because it just felt really significant. I mean, I'd had like lots of little conversations with trees here and there, and this yew tree was a tree I'd never met before. I was out on this forest bathing meetup and we went to this grove of yew trees and the people said, pick a yew tree and just go and touch its bark and connect with it. And I was like, okay. And then it gave me this idea for a book and it was like, this is a book that you can write. We have stories. People need to hear our stories. You are the person to do this if you choose to do so. It was like, just felt really, really significant. And I remember coming home and telling my husband, I was like, they gave me this idea for a book. And he was like, great. Um, but it just felt like when the tree was telling me that idea, it really felt like a before and after in my relationship with the trees. And it was. Because I felt like before that, I went from just kind of dabbling in tree communication to being of service to the trees and helping them to get their stories out there in a way that they can't do on their own because they can't publish books, except through people who can do that for them. So, yeah.
Wow. It's like, you chose like it's like the matrix, like the tree gave you
Yeah, it gave me a
one pillar to
task.
take it. Yeah, just like one pillar.
Exactly.
And it's the unconventional path pill that you took up. And yeah,
Yeah.
it is being of service. It's like the tree spoke through you, and it's connecting with so many. I remember when I was reading it and I was like sending you messages out of message saying, oh my God, there's a tree here in India which said the same thing to me, and there were like
Yeah.
so many resonances of
Yeah.
what the tree is telling us even like in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And there's so much commonality in that, and it's amazing. So it was like literally a life-changing experience for you there.
It was definitely. I mean, it's definitely kind of put me on a different path. Like I'm, still a writer, but now I'm going to be writing, more about nature stuff than
Yeah,
other things. So yeah, it was good. It's
it
very,
was
very,
good.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
marked a before and after in my life.
So that definitely was your life coach,
Yeah, it
literally
was. It
challenged
was.
you.
Well, it was, and it's interesting because when the tree said we have stories to tell, I was like, "Ooh, is it going to be like fairy tales and like folk tales? It'll be fun." And no, it wasn't. It was all kind of personal development stuff. So the trees in my book are kind of like life coachy trees because it was all about like how to connect with nature so that you can
Yeah.
connect with yourself and improve your life, and so that they were very life coachy, all of them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, I mean, it resonates so much. Even for me, like nature connections, at a time where, there was so many changes happening in my life, in terms of shifting cities and jobs and things like that. And the trees telling me like, you need to start doing this with other people. And I'm like, hey, no, I need to make more money. I'm
Yeah.
broke. I need to like really set my life, and you can't be telling me to do something new. But yeah, there was a lot of resistance. Unlike you, for me,
Mm,
there was resistance in the beginning.
mm.
I was like, no way, I'm not taking something new up for now. I need to like really get some work going and things like that. And but yeah, luckily I had a life coach, and it took me over a year, I would say,
Mhm.
to really say yes to it,
Mm.
to doing this work. And now I'm like, why did I take so much time? What was the? But it was a life
Yeah.
transforming
Yeah.
path where people also feel like nature connections. I'm much more in flow than
Mm.
my other work that I do. So yeah, trees can really be good life coaches. They can
Yeah, they
give
can.
us, can push us out of our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for me, after I actually said yes, surprisingly, everything else came into place.
Good.
My life really fell in place in terms of work, in terms of finances, in terms of everything else. So yeah, I think
Mm.
we need to
Imagine
listen
that.
to trees. Yeah, trees speak our truth, and we just need to hear it out.
Yeah. And like I said, they're so much older than we are, so they know.
Yeah,
They know.
they know much more than we do. They
Yes.
have more experience.
I mean, if you hire a human life coach, you get, someone that's about your
Yeah,
age, 30s, 40s, 50s. But if you hire a tree life coach, you get like 1,000-year-old life coach.
yeah, exactly. Oh God. Yeah. Me being a life coach, my my career is in threat if I bring this idea saying go to trees. Though I do that in my coaching sessions, I would like encourage people to go connect with trees, but I hope
Yeah.
they don't take over my job soon.
No. No, absolutely not. I mean, I think it does help to have someone to kind of like help you on
Yeah,
that journey and help you interpret and help
yeah,
you like put stuff into
absolutely.
place. Because
Yeah,
obviously, trees can give us ideas, but then we have to implement the ideas.
yeah. Take the action. And I know I also needed a
Yeah.
life coach to do that. I mean, I
Yeah.
would not have started Nature Connections without her help.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, let me see if there are any questions that
Yeah.
came up of anything related to trees, tree communication. Do share with us or ask us questions. Anumira says, love talking about trees and so happy. You two look so happy. Oh, thank you, Anu.
Yeah. Thank you. We are
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, we are happy. And trees do make us happy. And talking about trees
Yes.
makes us happy, right? They're like in our DNA now. But Anu,
Yeah.
if you have anything else you want to talk about trees or ask, feel free to share. I'm sure there are quite a few people who have had experiences with trees. I know I've come across a lot of people, in fact, in the sessions sharing as to how they've connected with trees during the grieving period,
Yeah.
of when someone has passed away. And
Mm.
I guess trees are such amazing listeners
Yeah.
that uh, I think humans tend to get a little confused of how to really be with someone when they've lost someone, what to
Yeah.
say, what to do, and how to give condolences. So,
Yeah.
that's something that was quite new for me, but I heard
Mm.
it like from different people.
Mm.
So it's always nice to hear. So if I know you also want to talk about your experience with tree, I wish I
Mm.
could add people and have them
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
live, but then yeah, you could use the chat to
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and I think that's really good advice is, connecting with trees if you're grieving because they can give you advice or they can just listen or I mean one of the trees in my book said like give us your worries. Like tell us, share with us and we'll take care of it for you. We'll take that energy and kind of transform it into something neutral and take it from you so you don't have to be carrying this burden of whatever it is.
Yeah, that really is makes a lot of sense because a lot of people do feel lighter and
Yeah.
rejuvenated after they
Yeah.
are, in a space which has a lot of trees.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what makes sense when she said, that it's happening, the communication is happening on a other
Yeah.
level. So maybe even if you're not consciously putting in our worries, maybe it is absorbing it,
Yeah.
perhaps, and of course we do have the research which shares about how they emit phytoncides, which are chemicals that trees emit,
Yes.
which are actually good for our parasympathetic nervous system that helps us calm down too.
Yep.
So that could also be happening at a physiological level.
Absolutely.
We do have some questions. So
Yes.
Anumira says, trees are for me, my friends.
Yes.
Yes, trees, flowers, lakes, exactly. So a question she asks is, did you meet your tree fairies yet?
I've had some communications with them, and I think there may be a book coming up in the future with them, but not in the immediate future. So we've connected. How about you?
No, not yet. For me, I
Mm.
still haven't got the concept of that yet in my head, in my logical head.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
My reasoning, yeah. I still have those images of fairies like in the movies and in the wigs
Yeah.
and all of it that I know that's like
Yeah, I don't
not
think that's how
exactly
they
how it is.
are.
So, yeah. But yeah, hopefully when I'm ready and when they are
Yeah.
ready, it'll happen. But I'd love to read your book on that for sure.
Yeah. We shall
Yeah.
see.
And there's another one which I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing the name right.
Hmm.
Catherine perhaps. So it says, lovely to hear. Do you connect with animals too or other plants?
Yes, I connect with other plants. I do plant spirit healing, and so I communicate with plants as well as trees. I have connected with animals, but really my specialty is plants and trees. So yeah, I connect with the green stuff more than I do with animals.
Yeah. And happy to share that
Yeah.
in the next live, we have Suneet who will be talking about plant
Yes.
healing. And I think she's been your mentor to
Yes.
initiate
Yep. Yep.
into the
Yeah. Yeah.
plant spirit
She's
healing.
fantastic. She was my
Yeah.
teacher. She is. You will love her.
Yeah. So, Catherine, you could learn more about it. And I guess the essence of communicating with different species or nature elements is kind of similar.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is telepathic and it is intuitive and it is natural. It just that it's about what we're comfortable with, right? So for
Yeah.
me, also trees come first, and then
Hmm.
animals come
Hmm.
easily too. But I still struggle with plants.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
it's I guess it takes time and yeah, Sunit has been helping me and sharing tips on what I
Mm.
could do. So I haven't
Ooh.
yet done it, but yes, hopefully I will. But I guess you can communicate with any species.
Yeah.
It could be a stone, it could be a rock, it
Yeah.
could be, in fact, in some also inanimate objects
Yeah.
you can communicate with. So hopefully all of that becomes normal at some point of
Yes.
time.
The more we talk about it, the more normal it will get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps when we kind of talk to each other. Like I'm learning so much from you. And when I listen to some other three communicators talking and then like, oh yes, that makes sense. Like I remember, I think in your podcast you're talking about how the sense that we receive the information usually is the one which is least active for us, and that's so true because for me auditory is least active. Like i'm
Me
i'm a more
too.
visual person.
Yes, me
Yeah,
too.
it's like
Exactly. Yeah.
I find it very difficult, sorry to say, but to hear to listen to podcasts is really difficult, or
Yeah.
audiobooks. I find it very
Yeah.
difficult to
Yes.
listen. I need to read or I need to write.
Yep. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and that
That's
was such an
so,
eye
I'm so glad
opener.
you said that. I'm so glad you
Yeah,
said that because I love listening to podcasts, but I don't retain the information. So like I'll listen to
yeah,
it and be like, oh,
exactly.
that's interesting. Oh, look
Yeah,
at that. And then afterwards, if you ask me what I just listened to,
yes.
I don't know, but it was really good.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the more we talk, it's like we learn so
Yeah,
much from other people's experiences, and especially
yeah,
something like this, which is not unlike other things where you could read a book and there's an
yeah,
SOP, do these
yeah,
steps, and it's
yeah,
something so much of them. Yeah. And
yeah.
there's another question that Anu's asked is, who is your teacher? Who are your teachers or guides who got you started in it?
The trees.
Yeah,
I
even
mean,
I was
first,
thinking that
first the Akashic
trees.
Records keepers because they gave
Yeah.
me the idea, but then it's the trees. I haven't learned from any human people. It was all the tree people, and except for plant spirit healing, which of course I learned from
And
Sunit,
instant.
who you will
Yeah.
meet next week. But the tree communication and the plant communication was just all from the trees and plants themselves
Yeah,
in practice.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think um, before the teachers and guides actually appear to us, it's I think us also who needs to be open to it.
Mm,
Like they say, the teacher appears when the student is
yeah,
ready.
yeah,
And I think the moment we are ready, knowingly or unknowingly, um, it appears. And for us, I guess, people in human form or
yeah,
tree form, who
yeah,
come to us and
yeah.
share things. And
I mean,
absolutely.
I think if this is something that you're curious about, then probably you're ready to try it. You know,
Yeah.
there are no kind of prerequisites that you need to like have studied this or like have experience in that. Like if you're curious, try because
Yeah.
there's a reason why you're curious about this. There's a reason why you're watching this Instagram live. If you
Yeah.
did not believe and this was not your path, you wouldn't be here listening to us probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And at least for me, it's not like I had any deep connection with trees since childhood, or
Mm,
I've been like born and raised in a proper city,
yeah,
Mumbai, and it. I still don't know the names of trees. I still would not, even when I'm like the tree that I was talking about today. I just day before yesterday got to know which tree she is. It was.
mm,
I don't feel the need to ideate and find out what tree.
yeah,
So you may not really be a tree person,
yeah,
but communication is still possible, and without teachers or
absolutely.
guides too. It's like you said, if you're curious, it'll happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that happened to me when I was writing the book because I was like, a couple of the trees, I was like, I don't know what this is. Is it a sycamore? Is it a Norway maple? I don't know. And I was like using tree apps and like trying to figure out. And, and I didn't, I never just asked the tree because I knew that my fears about getting it wrong would get in the way of getting the conversation, getting the answers. So it was like,
Yeah.
oh, how do I figure this out? And I actually contacted, I think, Woodland Trust at one point, like sent like pictures of bark and leaves and things, and they confirmed my suspicions. But yeah, that was one thing in the beginning. I didn't know all the trees. Like some of the trees I know, some of the trees I didn't know. So you don't need to know the scientific aspects of trees in order to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a tree and you. That's
Yeah.
it, right? It
It's
doesn't
one
matter
being with
anything
another
else.
being communicating.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, it's like the names of trees. It could be an oak tree or a mango tree. It's a name that is given by humans.
Hmm.
Because that helps us to connect, but that doesn't mean like I keep going around giving names to trees, my own names,
Yeah.
and it's the trees tell me that you can call me this. So I have a tree which is called Bhutia, and there's Grace, and like whole lot of things. And for me, that feels more real way of
Yeah.
connecting
Yeah.
than the actual names given by people. But
Yeah.
yeah, and there's one more thing that Wild and Beyond has shared. Lots of insight and perspective. Thanks for the conversation. Thank you, Wild and
Thank you.
Beyond. Glad you got some info. Wild and Beyond is also asking, are some trees he and some she? How do you figure?
So yes and no. So some trees have both male and female flowers on the same tree, and some trees just have female flowers, and some trees just have male flowers. So like holly trees, for example, will have all female flowers on one tree and all male flowers on another tree. Um, so sometimes, I get a very clear female voice in my head. Sometimes I get a very clear male voice. I talked about this a little bit in the book. I don't think it matters whether the tree is male or female or what kind of voice you get. Just go with whatever comes to you. And if it is really important to you, then, check when the tree's in flower, what kind of flowers it has. And you can kind of find that online or in tree apps, because the flowers will be very different whether they're male or female. But yeah.
Absolutely. I think at some level we just need to hold it lightly about the gender, because that again could be a human construct. But like you said, for me also, I can sense an energy that feels like this has a very masculine
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Or this has like the tree I was talking about right in front of my house is definitely a very child male feel for me, and Grace is like an older female, very graceful, and that kind of a feel. Now, and there are no right or wrong answers. No, you
Yeah.
can't scientifically prove it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just whatever makes you comfortable, or
Yeah.
whatever you will get as an information. So it's completely
Exactly.
fine.
And the vast majority of trees do have both male and female flowers on the same tree, so it's not something that I kind of worry about or really think about when I'm communicating. I just go with whatever kind of voice comes into my head.
Yeah, yeah. Is there something, like, this is my question, is there something that you would usually like ask or say when you meet a tree?
Um,
Like your opening line, for example.
no, I don't. Just kind of, hi, how are you? I mean,
Okay.
nothing. I don't have like a ceremony or anything special that I do. I
Yeah.
just kind of approach as I would approach a human person. Do
I'm quite
you?
selfish. I would always ask, like, do you have a message for me? Tell me. What advice would you give me? And so many times I have to stop myself and say, hey, how are you? And start with the basics first. Oh gosh.
I love that.
There's another question that
Yes.
Queen's Life has asked. What is the best way to pay tribute to long relationship with? P.S. I'm really enjoying listening to you two while working at the same time too. I'm glad you're enjoying this Queen's
Hi,
Life.
Alex.
And
Yeah, so
what's
what's
the
the
best way to
best way
pay
to pay
tribute?
tribute to a tree?
Interesting.
It depends on what comes naturally to you. You might I know Alex, he's a photographer, so you might take pictures of the tree and share pictures of the tree online so that other people can see the tree and see how beautiful it is. You might, another person might want to like sing a song to the tree, or write a song about the tree, or do a little dance for the tree, or give it some water, or whatever comes naturally to you. This is a weird thing, but I remember before we went to talk to the yew trees in that forest bathing group, the people said, like, look, all parts of the yew are toxic except for the aril, but the seed inside the aril is toxic too. So, like, be careful when you're touching the tree. I was so excited by my conversation with the tree. I kissed the tree. And then I was like, oh my God, I kissed the tree and it's toxic. I have to like wipe off my mouth. Like, it was so spontaneous because I was like, thank you for this idea. And then I kissed the tree. I don't normally kiss trees, but like it just like I just was so overwhelmed with emotion, like it felt naturally to me. So like do whatever feels natural to you, whether that's you could paint a picture of the tree, you could draw a picture of the tree, you could whatever feels like a way for you to pay tribute to the tree. Like what would be respectful for you? Like, and how can you thank the tree? Like, what do you think the tree would like for you to do?
Yeah.
Just, I would say make a list of things, or just pick whatever feels natural.
Yeah. I think that
And
makes sense.
don't kiss toxic trees. I mean, you'll be fine, but just be safe.
The tree might not push you back. Yeah, that makes more sense. I think just spontaneous. Or maybe you could ask the tree, like, how would you like to to pay tribute to you?
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I might ask that to a tree
Yeah.
next time.
It is. Like, ask the tree and then see what pops into your mind.
Yeah.
You might not hear a voice saying, oh, I would like for you to do a photographic survey of my branches and leaves throughout the seasons and share them on Instagram. But you might see like a picture of a painting, or you might see like a photograph, or you might see something that's a symbol of what the answer is. So
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
And that's a great question. I really like that because
Yeah.
I think
It's a nice question.
I think trees give us so much, and we don't always think about what we can give them. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something small, but
Yeah.
it's nice to give back. It was like Sunit, one time I was talking to her, and she said, you know, always kind of bring an offering of some kind, even if it's just like some water, because you wouldn't go over to someone's house for dinner without bringing a bottle of wine or flowers. So why would you go to the tree looking to get something from them and then not bring them something? So I think that's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's surely a nice way. I think I always end with just a thank you and
Yeah. Well,
a
and that's
hug.
good
But
too.
it's
Yeah.
something, yeah. But always thinking about, it's like giving that special sacred time to
Yeah.
think about something you would like to.
Yeah.
Like during the walks, the nature walks, we would probably make something out of whatever's there, like
Yeah.
fallen leaves, and just
Yeah.
make some artwork for the tree and just thanking the tree
Yeah.
through that and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's a good idea too. So those kind of
Yes.
forest mandalas that you see people do
Yeah,
on
the
the front, that
mandalas and
those are
stuff.
really
Yeah.
lovely. And that's also a nice
Yeah.
way to like take fallen parts of the tree.
Or it could just be like giving a flower that's fallen and just saying thank you with that flower. Or
Yeah.
something simple. Yeah. But yeah, sounds lovely. And yeah, I guess we're done with all the questions and even with our time. We've just taken 10 more minutes. But yeah, it was so fun to talk to you, Holly. It was
Yes.
really
It's so good to talk
amazing
to you.
and much to learn each time we talk, about our communication with trees. And hope everyone else who were here in the live also got some new information.
Yeah.
And feel free to connect with either of us if
Yeah.
you want some more support, help. We are always there to, just
Yes.
share anything that you'd like as far as trees are concerned or tree communication is concerned. And thanks a lot, Holly, for your
Yeah.
time
Thank
and
you. Thank
sharing
you
your
so much.
experience. And
Yeah.
those who haven't read her book, please do read her
Oh,
book. If
thank
Trees
you.
Could Talk, you'll really
Thank
know
you.
what trees can talk and what they say. And yeah, and next week we will be talking on plant spirit healing or something on those lines. So join in. It's next Wednesday, same time.
Good.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
everyone. Bye. See you,
Bye.
Holly.